This program is brought to you by Link TV for educational and non-commercial use only. Mosaic, a daily news program from Link TV, presents a selection of news reports from independent and state-controlled broadcasters from throughout the Middle East.
The spokesman for the Iraqi government, Ali Daba, said that the U.S. raid on the Syrian area of Abu Kamal along the Iraqi border has targeted an area used by what he referred to as, quote, anti-Iraqi groups operating in Syria, unquote.
Syria said that the attack targeted a civilian building, and it was carried out by helicopters using Iraq's airspace. Damascus held the U.S. forces responsible for the attack, which killed 8 people, including children.
In words and TV footage, Syrian sources confirmed that a civilian building under construction was targeted in an unprecedented raid by the U.S. forces inside Syrian territories. The Syrian statement confirmed that the attack was carried out by 4 U.S. helicopters that have breached the Syrian airspace near the area of Abu Kamal along the Iraqi border. According to incoming information from Damascus, several people were killed and several others were wounded in the attack. Meanwhile, Syrian official sources described the attack as serious aggression. According to an eyewitness account, 2 helicopters landed in the area and soldiers got off the planes and opened fire at the building. Then the planes headed back towards Iraq.
We were hit by an airstrike. My son went after his father. Then I went after him and brought him back.
In a statement issued to the Associated Press, a U.S. official said that the raid by U.S. Special Forces targeted Al-Qaeda-linked foreign fighters who were moving through Syria into Iraq. The Syrian area of Abu Kamal, which is located near the Iraqi city of Qa'im, is being described as an important crossing point for the trafficking of fighters, weapons, and money, which the U.S. says is fueling armed insurgency in Iraq. The attack comes days after the U.S. commander in western Iraq announced that his forces are doubling their efforts in order to secure Iraq's borders with Syria. In addition, the U.S. top official accused the Syrian forces of failing to control their side of the borders, indicating that foreign fighters are still moving through the borders. On the other hand, the U.S. commander praised the Saudi and Jordanian forces for maintaining control over their sides of the borders with Iraq. The latest U.S. accusations, which are not a new development, were dismissed by Syria. Damascus, which organized a tour for journalists and diplomats, confirmed that it has taken all necessary measures to secure its border with Iraq, which is extending over an area of 600 kilometers. In an earlier statement, the Syrian foreign minister accused the United States of failing to provide his country with state-of-the-art equipment necessary to stop the infiltration of foreign fighters into Iraq due to fear that Syria may use it against Israel.
تتصاعد يوما بعد الآخر ردود الشارع العراقي الغاضبة حول الاتفاقية الأمنية التي
The Iraqi people are getting angrier by the day over the security agreement that Washington wants Baghdad to sign. Iraqis believe that the agreement is a threat to their country's security and sovereignty. Thousands of worshippers held demonstrations in Baghdad, demanding that their government not sign the security agreement.
Washington is exerting pressure and making threats with the objective of having the Iraqi government accept the security agreement. This comes as Iraqis plainly reject the agreement because it violates Iraq's sovereignty. Iraqi citizens responded quickly in Baghdad, as was evident in Friday's sermons. Iraqi imams called on Iraqis to have a united position in rejecting the agreement regardless of the consequences, because it reflects American exploitation and ambitions.
We will continue on this path of demanding that the government reject the security agreement, just like the Sadr movement. The Sadr supporters erected tents in Al-Mu'tamarat Palace to protest what has been going on. There are conspiracies. The U.S. wants the security agreement to pass against the will of the Iraqi people. However, at the end of the day, the Iraqi people are aware of what is going on.
Masses of worshippers held demonstrations in different areas of Baghdad. They held signs and carried out different activities, including the burning of the American flag, as a way to express their anger over the acts of violence that took place in Baghdad, only a few hours after American threats were made that violence will return if the security agreement is not signed. The Iraqi people reject this agreement in all of its details.
The security agreement is bad from a religious and a moral perspective. Everything the security agreement calls for is bad, and only bad individuals support it. We reject any kind of agreement with the occupation forces, and we demand that the occupiers leave.
Frustrated Americans have been trying different ways to have the Iraqi government pass the security agreement draft. The inability of the Americans to pass the agreement is seen by Iraqis as a victory to the position of the Iraqi religious authorities as well as political parties. It is also a victory to the people who reject the occupation and its security agreement. The people's rejection of the security agreement is in tune with the position of the Iraqi government. They have a united position of rejecting the occupation agenda and its colonizing projects. From the heart of Sadr city in eastern Baghdad, Haider Qasim Al-Alam.
The chairman of the Assembly of Experts, Ali Akbar Hashemi Rafsanjani, criticized the American pressure that has been exerted on the Iraqi people so they would sign the security agreement. In Tehran, Rafsanjani said that Washington has reached a dead end in Iraq and it is trying to get out of its quagmire. He called on the world to save the Iraqi people from the occupation. On another topic, Rafsanjani said he was surprised by the continued American threats against Iran pertaining to its peaceful nuclear program, which comes as Washington suffers from a suffocating economic crisis.
The leader of Al-Qaeda in Iraq, Abu Hamza al-Muhajir, accused the Sunni tribes of abandoning their pledge of allegiance to the Islamic State. He called for members of the awakening councils to seek repentance. Muhajir added that most tribal leaders pledge allegiance to Abu Umar al-Baghdadi in writing. However, they have abandoned this pledge. He denied targeting Sunni imams. He said that he would be honored to cut off the heads of the awakening council leaders or the apostate imams. To comment on this issue, we have from Baghdad Sheikh Ali al-Hatem, the head of the Support and Safe Councils in Iraq. First, what is your response to Abu Muhajir's statements?
In the name of God, the Beneficent, the Merciful, we will not place a lot of importance on these trivialities. People like this person who we are speaking about are sick. We did not pledge allegiance to anyone, nor are we in the era of ignorance. We are in a nation of laws. If there are tribal leaders, as the ones he claims, then let tribal leaders expel them. They have never struggled in the political or religious path. All we want to say is that if Al-Qaeda in Iraq wants to return to the scene, then we are prepared. I heard that they issued a pardon or something. Well, we are not running away or escaping so that people like this man can show up. We don't even know who this guy is to pledge allegiance to him. We don't know his origins. We don't know where he is from, or Abu Omar al-Muhajir, or Abu whoever. In any case, honestly, through your station and other channels, the tribal community launched a new project, and that is that we will not make an exception for any member of Al-Qaeda. Neither will the human rights laws, animal rights laws, or any person have mercy on them. They will not be spared from Iraqi or American laws. In other words, Al-Qaeda anywhere will be hit. That is our goal as tribes. Regarding this statement, these guys are forced to talk nonsense. Thank God Iraq is different now. The use of pledges and the use of apostasy, it is as if we are living during the time of ignorance. This is rejected, and actually, they have nothing left in Iraq.
What does Abu Hamza al-Muhajir want from these kinds of statements and at this specific time?
Honestly, whenever we near the end of a miserable phase, Al-Qaeda or other organizations open up a new page. They want to destroy Iraq more than it has already been destroyed. It has not been enough for Muhajir and others like him that they have to go out and talk nonsense at this time. What's left of Iraq? 3/4 of the Iraqis were killed at the hands of the Al-Qaeda organization and the Project for the Islamic State, which they call for. They came under the pretext of fighting the Americans, but they did not fight the Americans. They allowed Muhajir and others like him, or bin Laden, to appear and say we are fighting the Americans, but they are fighting us. Thus, let them pay attention. No Iraqi law or American law will spare them from our hands. We are outside of this phase. We do not want chaos. What do they want? They want to destroy Iraq again and return the political process to chaos, to the starting point. They want to spread Islamic ideology, but we are not Jews. We are already Muslims. They have insulted Islam with their thinking, and they have insulted God and the Islamic creed. They have insulted all of the Islamic principles. Christians, Yazidis, and all the religious sects in Iraq complain about Al-Qaeda and the interference of neighboring countries. So we will absolutely not allow this.
A suspected US missile strike near the Pakistani border with Afghanistan has killed up to 20 people. According to intelligence sources, the attack was aimed at the home of a local Taliban commander in Vana in southern Waziristan. There's been no official response yet from the Pentagon, but it's understood that most of the dead were fighters. And police in western Pakistani city of Quetta says a car bomb has killed 2 people and injured 10 others. It exploded in a parking lot near government offices and the Iranian consulate. So far, no one has claimed responsibility for that blast. It's estimated the fighting in Pakistan's northwest frontier province has driven as many as 190,000 people away from their homes. In a moment, we'll be discussing the plight of those who've been forced into Afghanistan. But first, from a refugee camp in Peshawar, Pakistan, Imran Khan reports.
This tented city in the heart of Peshawar stands testament to the war in Pakistan's tribal areas. Just 200 kilometers from this despair, Taliban and Pakistani troops battle on one of the front lines of the so-called war on terror. Thousands of the most vulnerable, already amongst the country's poorest, fled here, leaving only the younger men behind to protect what few possessions they'd managed to keep. These are rural people, shepherds and farmers who left their livelihoods back in the valley.
I walked from Bajur for hours. The planes were bombing us. They destroyed our homes, killing innocent people. I wish they will settle this through dialogue.
The families have had to make this place home, making do as best they can. But under the tarpaulin, the tragedy of their situation becomes apparent. This family all stay inside this tent, and one of the things that strikes you about this tent is it's so incredibly hot during the day, and at night it's absolutely freezing. It's very basic, and everybody's sleeping on rock-hard floors. And that might just be about okay for the adults, but for the children it's even worse. But let me introduce you to the latest addition. This is baby Layla. She's just 15 days old, and she was born inside this tent. And Layla is not the only child to be born here. This camp has a long history. These mud buildings were once home to thousands of Afghan refugees who fled when the Soviet occupation of Afghanistan began. A generation grew up here, and for many this was their only home. Then, in 2007, this camp was knocked down, with the hope that the last refugee had been seen here. As a new generation, known not as refugees, but as internally displaced people, inhabits this place, many will be hoping that these Pakistani children grow up knowing something other than the camps.
The memorandum of understanding between Hezbollah and the Salafis was born dead. This has raised concerns and questions about the possibility of al-Qaeda carrying out operations to take revenge. Our colleague Riyad Kubaisi examines the split between Hezbollah and the Salafis in the third part of investigative reports about the Salafis in Lebanon.
The Salafis involved with the memo claim that they were trying to preempt merchants trading with money and religion so as to prevent them from igniting internal strife. But commerce involves cleverness. The merchants were more skilled than the Salafis in preempting the memo.
Our priority was to try and prevent strife from happening because we believed that it would harm everyone, even those merchants. But perhaps they were blinded by their love of money and power.
This is the main road leading to the southern suburb, which the caravan of understanding with the Salafis has not yet reached. So, has the danger of booby-trapped vehicles reaching the south increased?
Abu Abd al-Bayruti is as vulnerable as chocolate. He's weak and does not have weapons. So Hezbollah, with its arsenal that faced the Israeli enemy, does not need to come to him and come to Beirut.
Couldn't this be the reason why al-Qaeda decided to come to Lebanon?
No, I don't think so. Al-Qaeda is not present in Lebanon because of administrative reasons inside of Al-Qaeda. Al-Qaeda is preoccupied with a large battle with the US and its allies in Iraq. Al-Qaeda did not mention the July war. Recently, there was a problem. Some Hezbollah statements targeted Al-Qaeda and focused on the issue of takfirism and terrorism, which served the United States. So Al-Qaeda considered this a sign that Hezbollah, with the help of its mediators or allies from governments like Iran and others, has started to criticize Al-Qaeda. So Sheikh Osama bin Laden responded, which was the first time he addressed the Secretary General of Hezbollah and said, "Don't talk too much about the issue of resistance because we are resisting those who you have shaken hands with, like al-Maliki. We're against Resolution 1701, he added.
Omar Bakri does not entertain the possibility of al-Qaeda carrying out revenge in the district. But that does not stop us from asking those who refuse to sign the memo of understanding with Hezbollah for their reasons.
This group of Salafis does not have presence on the ground, political, civil, or in the media. So by this, it wanted to create a presence in one of these areas. It failed in the first two and only succeeded in the media. The proof is that the ink on the agreement didn't even get a chance to dry before they withdrew and said that it is frozen. It was canceled.
This is incorrect. It was not canceled. It was frozen based on the judgment of Dr. Hassan Kehal, who said, "I was exposed to huge pressure that I've never experienced before in my life." So he had to retreat to prevent strife. And we support him in his stance. Even Hezbollah understood this position and supported the freeze. We did not run from strife between the Sunnis and Shiites to fall into strife between the Sunni and Sunnis.
The agreement was signed on matters that the two agree on. I do not have the desire to fight Hezbollah and reject the spilling of its members' blood. And they do not accept that either, I think. Unless we were attacked, then we won't stay silent.
No, it's not common knowledge. How is it common knowledge when we're about to fall into strife? How is it known and yet something happened? Strife did take place, or the beginning of strife in Beirut, Tayel Baaya and Saad Na'i. If these concepts were understood, we wouldn't have fallen into strife.
For example, they signed an agreement for disarmament, not to attack anyone religiously during certain religious rites. No weapons can be turned internally. The people of Beirut cannot be attacked again, nor any Lebanese person, and weapons should be turned in to the army. These points of disagreement exist, and we're signing to agree on and implement them.
These points of disagreement bring us to the time of the July War, when it was revealed that a group of Salafis in Lebanon agreed with Al-Qaeda on describing the UNIFIL as occupation forces.
What I read about the events of 2006 is very frightening and awful. When 1,200 people were killed and many villages were destroyed, and the south was occupied by 15,000 new soldiers, aside from Israel. Is this resistance?
We open at the Knesset, where just a short time ago, President Shimon Peres spoke at the opening of the winter session. The Israel legislature was all abuzz about the upcoming new elections, the result of Tzipi Livni's announcement that she was unable to form a new government. President Peres opened with a stern reprimand for the country's elected representatives. He said that the public's trust in its democratic institutions has been undermined, and it is time for the Knesset and for the political establishment to do some serious soul-searching. He stressed in his speech that the session begins with both internal and external turmoil that should concern every citizen. All of the Knesset factions have spent the opening day of the winter session in heated discussion about the upcoming elections. Party members from across the political spectrum reacted to the news.
We do believe that the failure of Mrs. Livni is leading directly soon to primary election. This is the right way and the shortest way to bring into a democratic decision.
The only alternative is to go to election as soon as possible. It's meaning 3 months. And we hope that the competition about the parties will be about way, about agendas, and not a kind of a reality game.
But we as the Labour Party, we will begin from yesterday to just make all our efforts to organize ourselves, and we will go to election with our leaders, Ehud Barak, that have all the background of to be the leader of the country.
We know that we have a very existential threat from Iran. We have very existential threat around us. And it's not always the best thing to have elections and internal issues.
The Palestinian president is continuing to expand his control over the West Bank. Today, the Palestinian security forces arrested in the villages of Yatta and Samur 4 wanted Hamas activists in connection of what has been described as criminal activities. The raid comes in the context of a security plan in which the Palestinian president, Mahmoud Abbas, is trying to shrink Hamas's influence through the deployment of his security forces in the West Bank cities of Nablus, Jenin, and today in Hebron. Meanwhile, an athletic event with a political cover took place yesterday in the Palestinian territories. In the first soccer match on its home soil and before its fans, the Palestinian national soccer team met its Jordanian counterpart. The match took place at a soccer field near occupied Jerusalem. The ballpark was built in cooperation with the United Arab Emirates. With this, it seems the Palestinian people were able to achieve an athletic sovereignty pending the national sovereignty. Mohammed Al-Said reports from Al-Ram in occupied Jerusalem.
It's an important event that may seem athletic on the outside but political on the inside. This news comes after the Palestinians celebrated the opening of Faisal al-Hussein Stadium in Al-Ram neighborhood in occupied Jerusalem.
This effort was crowned with a national wedding for all Palestinians who feel a sense of pride and self-importance. They came from all walks of the Palestinian life, which included Hamas, Fatah, and the Popular Front. A short while ago, I received a call from His Excellency Ismail Haniyeh, who congratulated me on this achievement.
This event has not left any political constituent without touching it. The Palestinians agreed to unite under the slogan of sports. It's part of their political unity. The ousted Palestinian Prime Minister Ismail Haniyeh broke the ice and called Rajub to congratulate him and wish him success. Meanwhile, the Palestinian caretaker Prime Minister Salam Fayyad attended the first match between the Palestinian national team and its Jordanian counterpart.
It was a historical match between our national team and the Jordanian team. In addition, the head of FIFA and many friends came to the stadium and watched the game. It's a message of support and solidarity to the Palestinian people during a difficult time.
Thousands of Palestinian fans crowded the national stadium. In addition, several Arab and international delegations, including the head of FIFA, Joseph Blatter, attended the match. Among the Arab delegations attending the opening ceremony of the stadium was the UAE delegation, which is the biggest supporter of the Palestinian people.
The founder was Sheikh Zayed bin Sultan Al Nahyan, God rest his soul. We, leadership, government, and people, stand behind our Palestinian brothers. Also, we at the sports sector will not hesitate to support our Palestinian brothers.
The Palestinians consider this gathering a political event rather than an athletic one because it was held for the first time on a national soil that is overlooking occupied Jerusalem. Recently, Colin Powell, a highly respected international statesman and a member of the Republican Party, endorsed Barack Obama for U.S. president. On Meet the Press, Powell stated that both candidates, Barack Obama and John McCain, were qualified to be president, but he repudiated his Republican Party for moving too far to the right. Then he criticized the way some party leaders have been trying to cast doubt about Obama's Christian faith by referring to his father's religion, Islam, or his middle name, Hussein. In fact, Republicans have been painting Obama as a socialist with an Islamic background. Now I have my issues and personal views about Colin Powell, which begin with his testimony at the United Nations Security Council about what we know now to be fabricated claims about Iraq's alleged WMD's program. Nevertheless, Powell was bold and honest when he broached the subject of Islamophobia head-on. This is what Powell had to say.
I'm also troubled by not what Senator McCain says, but what members of the party say, and it is permitted to be said, such things as, well, you know that Mr. Obama is a Muslim. Well, the correct answer is he is not a Muslim. He's a Christian. He's always been a Christian. But the really right answer is, what if he is? Is there something wrong with being a Muslim in this country? The answer is no, that's not America.
Racism and religious persecution is nothing new in America, or for that matter in the rest of the world. The African American community had to endure it for 400 years. Almost every new immigrant community had to go through the racial and religious litmus test. Sometimes I feel that you cannot be a real American until you deal with it, endure it, and perhaps live long enough to address it as a subject of the past. We can fight it, we can reduce it, but I do not know if we can totally eradicate it. There will be always a xenophobic individual around to spew hatred against someone who he or she deems different. But really, is there something wrong with being a Muslim in this country, especially when young American Muslims are fighting and dying for this country? Powell went on to tell this moving story.
I feel strongly about this particular point because of a picture I saw in a magazine. It was a photo essay about troops who were serving in Iraq and Afghanistan. And one picture at the tail end of this photo essay was of a mother in Arlington Cemetery. And she had her head on the headstone of her son's grave. And as the picture focused in, you could see the writing on the headstone. And it gave his awards, Purple Heart, Bronze Star, showed that he died in Iraq, gave his date of birth, his date of death. He was 20 years old. And then at the very top of the headstone, it didn't have a Christian cross. It didn't have a Star of David. It had a crescent and a star of the Islamic faith. And his name was Kareem Rashad Sultan Khan. And he was an American. He was born in New Jersey. He was 14 years old at the time of 9/11. And he waited until he can go serve his country, and he gave his life.
Muslims in America are enduring their share of religious persecution. But when a Republican general goes on national television to say, hey, hold it, stop polarizing America around Muslims, maybe we have just seen a tipping point. I'm Jamal Dajani for the Mosaic Intelligence Report. To learn more about this program or to share your thoughts, visit us at linktv.org/mosaic.
you can always visit my blog at the Huffington Post.
The views expressed on Mosaic are those of the participating broadcasters, not Link TV or its sponsors. The production of Mosaic is made possible with the support of viewers like you. Thank you. This program was brought to you by Link TV for educational and non-commercial use only. Link TV is the only U.S. television network devoted to global and national news, with uncompromising documentaries and diverse cultural programs. Programs which connect you to the world.